We are thrilled to share some amazing work for Wanderlish, an exciting new brand of globally inspired refrigerated meals that we launched in partnership with Bob Evans Farms and Sterming-Rice Group. Each bite of a Wanderlish meal is a delicious adventure through layers of rich global flavors, delectably tender chicken, pillowy rice, and incredible sauces. More than that, though, Wanderlish is an opportunity to experience exciting cuisines from around the world, like Middle Eastern-inspired chicken shawarma, Asian-inspired black garlic chicken, and African-inspired peri-peri chicken. And on a more personal level, Wanderlish is proof that when you bring talented, passionate people together to collaborate on great ideas, wonderful things can happen. We are so proud to share this genuinely delicious new brand with the world, and we are equally as proud to share how we were able to bring it to life. So, without further ado, please join us as we discuss the run-up to the Wanderlish launch.
All right, we're going to go ahead and begin. So I'm Kathy Stevenson, and we're at the Expo West booth with CuliNEX. We're excited to be here this year, and with me is Jason Roach, who's the Vice President and General Manager of Growth Ventures at Bob Evans Foods, and Amy Shipley, who's the Managing Director and Partner at Sterming-Rice Group. And we're super excited to talk about something that means a lot to us, which was an innovation project that we all launched in together in the last 12 months. So I'm going to just give it over to Jason and have Jason talk about the concept and how the team came together and share what's happening at the show with Wanderlish.
That sounds great. It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting us. This has been an absolutely wonderful project. We've really enjoyed it. So we started a group at Bob Evans about a little over a year ago, and it's called New Growth Ventures. And the idea behind New Growth Ventures was we knew we had aggressive growth goals for Bob Evans. We knew there was places we could take the existing brands we had, and there were places we couldn't. And if we wanted to stay on trend, we needed to expand into new brands and new places. And so we said, all right, well, how would we go about doing that? And our goal was to make sure that we did no harm to the Bob Evans brand, that we segmented ourselves completely off. We used our own resources and our own time. And we kind of tested a different approach to how we could move quickly, how we could accelerate the innovation, and how we could leverage really intelligent and strong partners like you guys to bring this to life. And so, we went out early on and we found the expertise in you guys, and we got the resources from our organization. And we're here a little over a year later. We've secured retailer Target and Kroger for retailers, and we'll be on shelf April 7th.
Talk about how you got involved, Amy, and when and what process.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, and thank you for having us at CuliNEX. We so appreciate it. So at Sterming-Rice Group, SRG, we got involved with yourself. It's been a wonderful partnership with CuliNEX. And of course, Jason is our fearless leader, which we'll get into in a moment, his magic and all this process here. But we worked on a lot of the research and insights to get us to what do we want to do here? What's going to be, really disruptive to the channel? What's going to really, change? What's going to taste great? How can we be unique? And really understanding kind of the future consumer at retail. Retail is changing so rapidly right now, competing fiercely with food service, all the actions on the perimeter, right? And we're looking at a lot of action in the refrigerated area. So we did a lot of the research and insights. We worked with yourself and your crew, and our culinary teams came together as one wonderful group to think about then what's the future of food look like? Where should we play? What's the sweet spot? Not going too far out, but close enough in where it was interesting, it was new, it was fresh, it was for a younger consumer. And then we also worked with you on the branding and design, the package design. And then we just shot commercials down in, I can't believe what I'm saying, we just shot our commercials down in Mexico City last week and getting ready to debut in April. So that was our involvement, but I also want to commend CuliNEX, and I will talk about that.
Definitely.
It's one thing to come up with great ideas, but then how to get it to the co-man and how to produce it properly, get the food costs right without sacrificing the quality and the flavor. It's really what I call the hard stuff. And that's what you guys did so beautifully. So it was a great partnership.
I remember when we were meeting in Boulder with all the culinary teams, tasting those first concepts to say, is this these were 8 things that we might consider. And there were a few that rose to the top. But it was like everybody's culinary minds going into that first step. And then it's always been the gold standard. As we took that through product development, we always went back to that original recipe, which is the hardest part, is how do you make that taste experience from a delicious recipe from a chef show up on the shelf? And that was always the biggest challenge. And we were watching that all the way through the process.
Well, and I think what I was most impressed with is how quickly you both got together and you worked together, because it was that collaboration that got us to those ideas. There, to your point, there was great talent across both organizations, and when we sat down and tasted those recipes, I couldn't decide which one we should launch first, right? They were that good. They were all craveable, and so that collaboration, that connection of all you guys was wonderful.
And I think we were also all involved so early in the process. Like for the culinary team, sometimes we're getting a brief handed to us from the marketing after all the decisions have been made about the brand and the consumer and the taste profiles. But to have been there hand in hand with you through that beginning process, our team knew the consumer as well as you did, because you really brought them to life and you were very clear about how important it was that we work together as one mind. And that process of our R&D people being part of that early stage, and then vice versa, you guys were in every step of the way. So as that product was coming to life, you knew exactly how you were going to shoot it. You knew exactly what you were going to say about it because you had tasted it all the way through. So
I think that is such a critical part of, I really feel like we redefined the idea of what rapid protocepting should be and could look like.
we did.
Super rapid protocepting, whatever it might be called. But, having that collaboration from the beginning, I think, was different for this project than other projects we've worked on with other clients is Jason had a very clear vision. And we spent a lot of time on that vision, Kathy, as you know, and Jason. And this crowd here at Expo West might think, well, of course everyone has a vision. But the truth of the matter is we spent a lot of time getting it right, a lot of time making sure that the entire team understood and agreed and held hands on that vision. And we came back to it in every single presentation that we did together. And by having that shared vision, I think I were able to bring some folks that usually, you made a great point, Kathy, when you pass the baton, sometimes things get lost in translation. And A, having that vision as for continuity, and B, being able to have everybody involved from the get-go. It was an easy handoff, so we were able to do this relay race faster than ever. So I think that was really unique.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting was, I had a overt objective. My overt objective was, let's create an enduring brand that sits right in the middle of this amazing global trend, and let's see if we can create something great and lasting together. My covert objective was around, let's test and learn how we can create an environment where people can be successful, right? How they can thrive. And so that's where we got into the idea of what are our ways of working? How do we build our culture together? How do we communicate? How do we work? And I think, honestly, at the end of the day, as talented as this whole group is and with all their kind of respective expertises, we couldn't have done it without putting our team in a place where they could thrive. And I think that's honestly one of the things I'm most proud of in this is it never felt like three teams. It felt like one, right? And I think as a testament to that, we were able to hire somebody on our team, Tiffany Haynes. And when she came in, she couldn't tell who was on what agency, right? She was just like, you're all working. And that's exactly where we needed to be at that time, because we couldn't have done all the information and then, to your point, gotten a whole nother group up to speed. You would lose something in the context. We all worked together. We all got where we need to be, and it was a clear direction to get there. So, I think that worked exceptionally well.
We didn't know that there was this covert thing happening where Jason was like testing all of his leadership skills and building teams. And we saw it from the very beginning because you had several different things that you put in place to make sure that were touch points, that for the team to come back to throughout. And we kept bringing these pieces back and talking as a team. We also set up this process where you could say anything.
Yes. That was the goal.
Say anything. You would often say, anyone have a nightmare last night? Anyone see a scary clown?
Yep.
Anything that needs to be brought up? And it was really open. And so me on the R&D side, oftentimes we're very cautious with the marketing and the agency. Partially too, Amy, you're our client as well on other projects. So we need to be careful and treat you as we treat all our clients, but sometimes there might be something that we're uncomfortable about. It just never happened.
It never happened.
Never happened.
Everybody's
Trust was
walking on
so-
eggshells.
Trust
right?
was, I know,
Never
right?
happened.
Trust was so important in this process. And that's why that holding hands was so critical. Our favorite part, I know our team, Kathy, you can comment, is Jason has this mood elevator that we would do. And I've never seen it before. And the mood elevator takes you from, despair, basically, all the way up
To euphoria,
to
basically.
euphoria, exactly. And we always would ask everybody. And I think it was really cool how we all celebrated. We took time out of every single call to celebrate somebody or people. And again, I know this sounds mundane. It just doesn't happen in our business.
It
And it really
matters.
made a difference.
I think we all kind of know it, but I don't know that we all do it. And so seeing it implemented and seeing these things come to life, they work. And I think one of the things that surprised me the most, you hear the silly cliche comments, right? It's 1 + 1 = 3. But it did. I mean, it absolutely did. And so you have people going back to some of the ways of working, these organizational citizenship behaviors, right? I think I told you guys about those, where it's like you're so into the project and you're so excited about what you're doing, you're going above and beyond just because of your passion, your curiosity, which is making things deeper and more well thought out and more successful. Those things just spontaneously happen when you create the environment to thrive. And so this group, I just saw it time and time again with Michelle and with Webb and with Chill and the whole gang. And so I think that piece allowed us to move as quickly as we did.
One thing I'm thinking about while I sit here too is, how do we help our next client to be like Jason? Actually, we did say that. What would
Can't be
Jason
done.
do? I mean, it was an important part. We celebrated that quite often because some of the amazing hurdles and the speed through steps that we were able to make was because Jason gave us leadership. He gave us the open voice, the trust, and that he enabled so much of what happened. So honestly, there's probably something in me that wants to go back and just list out those things, Jason, because when a client comes to us, and they often do, what can I do to make this better? Well, be like Jason. And there's some
Give them the 5 ways of working.
5 ways of working. We brought that through too. So that's awesome. I do want to talk about compassion because I know that was something that was really important to you. We touched on it a little bit, but how does compassion play into a team like this? We're all rushing to get a project completed to meet the client's high expectation, but compassion, that was really important part for you.
Yeah, I think I do think that we all forgot, who we were working for. We were working for Wanderlish, and in the end, and we have as much skin in the game than anybody, and that's the tone that we set at the beginning, and that created that passion, and that created that honesty to say, is this going to work? We need to take a left turn, a right turn, and we knew that at the get-go. There's going to be left and right turns. They're going to happen really quickly, but I think the entire team, I could say across the board between Sterling-Rice and CuliNEX, was so passionate about getting it right, but also speaking the truth. With some, it's kind of like you see something, say something, and come on. I mean, half the time it's a lot easier not to say anything at all. Just let it ride, pick your battles, and we didn't have that like pick your battle situation. It was more like, hey, wait, this doesn't feel right to me. Let's just talk about it for a moment. And I think that kind of passion helped everybody really, fall in love with the brand. And of course, after we tasted the food, I mean, that's when the passion, we're all hardcore foodies. We've all tasted a lot of good food. We've developed a lot of good food over the years. This is something exceptional. It's bringing these truly authentic global flavors to the forefront in an affordable fashion. I do a lot of work in restaurant work. This stuff is going to compete with any takeout you can get anytime. And there's no surge pricing either. And
That's exactly right.
We know that.
That's exactly right. No, I mean, and that's playing out over and over again when we go to retailer calls, when we're here at the show. People taste it, it sells itself. So, I mean, honestly, I think I told you guys in one of our meetings in the past, when we sat in front of the buyer at Target, we had our presentation and we were ready to go, and we gave her a copy of it, and I went to get the food, and she had flipped through the presentation, and we were kind of at the end of the meeting, and we were almost an afterthought. And she's like, all right, well, are we done? And we're like, no, we're not done. And we slid the food across, and the whole conversation changed immediately. She's like, yeah, we need to have these, right? The food sold the day, and it's exceptional. You don't get the layers of flavor and the depth of flavor and the textures that you guys were able to come up with, you don't get those in refrigerated, you don't get them in frozen. You kind of get everything mixed together with one flavor that really stands out, and these just aren't that. So, yeah.
It was great development that went on. And again, it's always keeping track of that culinary gold standard. Had to be carried through, and that was like one of the main things. That food's got to taste great all the way through. So what were some of the non-traditional tools that we used in this process for people to consider if they want to create an accelerating group like this?
I mean, I got a couple, right? It's those ways of working, right? And trust. So we keep coming back to it. How did we work? And how did that lead to the trust that allowed the conversations, that allowed people to feel comfortable sharing their ideas, where we had the conversations, where we sought to understand, and where we addressed things? We became very agile very quickly. So your team, Amy, as we were doing the research, we get questions, and we had a plan, but we said, you know what, I think our questions just changed, and now we need to probably do something a little different. How might we, right? How might we get there? And your team just leaned right in. They were able to adapt quickly. We did it all within budget, and we got the answers we needed in the time we needed, right?
I appreciate that. And, one thing Jason said at the very beginning, Kathy, you were on the call with me, is I don't want any research paralysis. Research and insights is good, obviously, and we're done right. But let's not research the hell out of this thing to the point where we're navel-gazing, we're not really understanding what's going on, we're spending the right amount to really better understand the consumer. Very few large companies do that today. They spend too much in that area. The other area, I think, is even though we're getting ready to go on air next month, is we're really focusing on the shopper marketing experience. Shoppers, I would say that to any client, especially here at Expo West, for those emerging brands, is spend the money to get people in the store. You got to drive sales, and you're going to learn from that. And that's the other part that Jason said at the very beginning was we have a plan for a learning plan. And we had a learning plan set the whole way. And when we established the communications plan, it was like, well, where's the learning plan in this? And so we could take a left and right. But that's on you. People have done it before, but it hasn't been done this well. And I think that helped us a great deal.
One of the things I'll talk about from the product development side was identifying that co-man early. And one of the things that Bob Evans Foods has going for it, it's a big player. And so when they do approach a co-man, the co-man's going to pay attention and they're going to jump in with both feet. But it just happens that we've selected like a gold star. And then our R&D people usually go through 3 rounds of development. We were with that co-man, using their ingredients, driving costs down, understanding capabilities so that the food delivered, making modifications in process, formula, and holding them to the standard from a production standpoint in the first round. The second round came, we made improvements to that cost structure, which was one of your key
death threats. So I probably shouldn't say that loud on the speakers, right? I think we moved to calling them clowns because we felt like death threats may be a little aggressive. But it was that idea of take the biggest, hairiest problems you got and pull them to the front, because if you wait to solve them, they're going to blow things up, and you'll spend 9 months fixing the wheels on the Cadillac, but you won't have a car that can drive, right?
And the beautiful thing is we had Zoom, we were conference calls, and you could see your whiteboard. And right behind your head on every call,
I had
all you had to do is turn your camera a little bit, and there were the 3 death threats that you
we
had
knew what we had to
written.
solve for.
And
We love that whiteboard, the mood board and the whiteboard.
And
The people that work for me don't love that whiteboard.
and we crossed them off together, and we celebrated. It was no joke, but we
We did.
Yes.
We cheered when we got that one
and
off.
we all sent each other like direct messages like, you did that right on. And I mean, it was...
Kathy, I was so surprised when your team went in with the co-man. You did such an extraordinary job. Protein is all over the place in terms of pricing right now. And, I feel like a lot of companies are kind of cheapening out, frankly. But that was so critical to our brand to get the protein, high quality protein. And the way they produced it, it actually was even more flavorful.
It was.
In many ways than just cooking it from the stove. And so that's why I think kudos to your team for making sure, and then getting the pricing right. And that's the dance that's so hard.
That was a dance, right? And so, one of the things that I think, our team's collaboration then started filtering out into the co-mans and the people around us, right? They got into the feel of the team. They understood what we were trying to create. They wanted to be a part of it. So they leaned in as hard as our teams did. And they worked with us on pricing, and they worked with us on timing, and they kept working on it until the product was where it needed to be. And your team brought our culture to them and made that happen, and that's important.
From the very early, there's no question.
Yeah.
I'm going to check my notes. So what surprised us the most? What were the things that surprised you?
So I took some notes after. I'm going back at them because I was
like to
thinking
hear
about
the
this as
answer to
well,
this.
right? What surprised me? It goes back. I think it was the passion and commitment of the teams, right? I just didn't think we could get 3 companies in 3 states to connect like we did, right? I knew we had to try, but I didn't think we would. And you guys did it. And it goes back to that comment I made earlier, which is the 1 + 1 = 3, or the organizational citizenship behaviors. We are here because of the extra effort and curiosity and time people put in because of the passion and commitment they had. And that, I think, I don't know if I was surprised that it could happen. I was surprised at how quickly and how well it did happen, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think the speed for me was a surprise. I knew we had a timeline from the get-go, and it was aggressive, very with a capital A. But we were going for it. I think what surprised me the most, both personally and professionally, that I came out of this process a better counselor. And, I'm better at my job. I'm better at working with collaborating with clients. And I just so appreciate that. The challenge now is that we don't want it ever to end.
No.
So that's like, now what do we
Let's
do?
keep this party rolling.
Yeah. And I was surprised how fast Jason got. Kudos to you guys. You had some great connections, obviously, with your great track record with Bob Evans, but getting the buyers in that room. I mean, look at the buyers are walking down halls right now and parting the seas here. Everybody wants to get to them, but you got in, you sold it that so quickly. And then, of course, once one got on, all of them were ready to jump on board. That, to me, the speed of that surprised me.
So for me, the biggest surprise was how you got approvals so quickly. And we said, I remember the first time we wrote up this proposal, we had a page of death threats, and we said, if you don't approve, we won't achieve it. If you don't get the approvals quickly through. And you were working with a completely outside company. You, and from a good portion of it, were the only representative from Bob Evans for the first portion. So how did you get approvals? And it's not everybody's going to be able to do it, but I'm sure it's company specific, but how did you do it?
No, I think it's a good question. It was one of the things we focused on early. We couldn't have too many cooks in the kitchen and be able to move as quickly as we did. And so we created a steering team internally. And it's mostly our executive leadership team, members of our executive leadership team. And we would go in, and when we go in, we weren't necessarily asking them for decisions. We were seeking advice. Like we would set the meetings up to say, hey, we need your input here, or we need a decision here. And then when we came to decision meetings, we leveraged the McKinsey model, the DARE model, and it was very clear who had the decision and then who was accountable and what the roles and responsibilities were. So we, at that point in time, we went through and said, here's some example decisions that could come up. And we made it very clear who had what. So when the decisions did come up, it was already mapped out. And so that was my decision. You guys can have input, but this is my decision. And so we were able to move through the process very quickly because the decisions we made early on gained trust with the ELT. And then we took that decision-making model and combining that with the trust, and we were able to run without having to go through multiple layers back and forth over and over again.
Is it reproducible? Are you going to be able to go back and do that again?
I believe it is, right? But again, it goes back to me to trust, right? You can do that when you trust the people that are on your team and you trust the decisions they're making.
I think getting your crew, Jason, you assembled really the extended team when we were at SRG in our kitchens with CuliNEX at the get-go. Those key moments in time where big decisions were needed to be made, but also where you started to see the magic of what could happen. I think when they started to see the magic together, that helped them be there, feel like they'd skin in the game, but also back off and let the team proceed. So also huge kudos to your leadership team and your senior leaders there who allowed us to do our job. And I must say, there's something, people spend a fortune on innovation pipelines, right? And then you launch something and you're like, what's the next pipeline? For us to be in the room and then see how far, we already started began to develop our innovation pipeline before we even got this initial line out.
Yeah, we're already starting.
Because we started to see the magic. And that to me is another learning and how to move faster to market in the end.
So, one of the things you talked about surprise as well is I think some people create great work cultures and you may or may not get good products. And some people create great products irrelevant of the work culture. We've been talking a lot about the work culture, but at the end of this, it's the product. And the product is just unbelievable. I don't feel like we've made a sacrifice in any way, shape, or form along the way because this team got us there. So, if my overt objective was how do we create an enduring brand that makes a difference in our consumers' lives, we have the food, we have the packaging, we have the communication, we have the ability to do that. And it happened to come because of everything we were able to do together.
It's interesting. I feel like a sports analogy here because sometimes even if each one of us hadn't been the top of our game, but because we worked together as a team and we were direct and open and honest and asking, and then if you couldn't answer, you had an opportunity to go back and research and come up with the response, that we didn't even need to be amazing. As a team, we could have achieved something great.
That's right.
And I think that's a lesson for people who maybe are looking at an innovation and saying, well, I can't afford SRG. I can't send my R&D out to a outside firm like CuliNEX. But then it's really about creating that trust inside your team. Then that's going to be important.
It makes all the difference.
Just like a basketball team, you may not have all the greatest talent.
That's right. They got all the heart.
That's right.
Absolutely. It's true. Is there anything you would do different?
I tried to come up with one. I don't have it. I don't have one I do differently. We've got the right team. I keep going back to we had the right expertise in the room. We had the right people managing the project. We had the right people developing the product and the creative. And we did it on the timeline we said we would do it in, and we did it at the budget we said we'd do it in. There's no reason to change anything. Right.
We actually send, it's a very common process for us to send out a client closeout and have a meeting and ask all the questions. But like throughout the entire process, we were documenting what went right. We were making adjustments. By the time we were done, everything went so great because we were making immediate. There was no need to call Jason and say, Jason, what should we do different? And it's like, there was no closeout. It was just like, we're moving on. It's all gone great. So anything you would do different, Amy?
I think, I was so surprised at, we now have market pickup. We expected a couple markets, right, to be in a few markets, and that was our testing plan. And now we're going to be all over the country before we know it, and we've already gotten markets signing on. And, it does take money. I mean, let's get real. It takes money to get it out there, get the word out. It's especially during election year. There's a lot of noise out there. So I think that's one of the things is that, trying to get the resources together, which Jason always had backup plans. He always was looking at the numbers very differently. But now we've got markets coming on left and right. And so you do need to prepare to put your foot on the gas.
That's right.
Both physically, but also from a financial perspective, if you're going to win big. And I just, I'm not only excited about this line launching in April with Target, but also looking at the next line extensions that we have coming down the pike. It's going to move really fast, and I'm just thrilled. And looking around here, I don't really see that many competitors. They're in the same arena. A lot of great products here at Expo West, but I really think we've got a unique proposition.
There's a lot of inspiration with some of the regional cuisine sauces. I saw a lot of amazing sauces from West Africa and from India, and so those were very inspiring. But to make it a meal that you can pick up, that's a real unique positioning.
Yeah, and you mentioned the learning plan earlier, Amy, and that's the approach we're taking through this whole process, right? How do we learn? So this market test we're doing is essentially a learning launch, right? And in this learning launch, we're going to test different price points. We're going to test different communication methods. We're going to test different ways to do a full funnel of marketing versus digital and social and shopper versus just shopper, right? We want to understand what moves the needle and how can we be as efficient, as effective with our spend. So, all that learning we did to get here isn't over. We're just in the next phase of learning. And then when we get through this 6 months, we'll say, okay, here's the plan, here's what we saw, scale up and go big, right? So at no point have we taken an irresponsible risk from a financial standpoint, right?
Hardly,
At
no.
each place, we said, let's validate, and if it validates here, we'll go to the next step. And it was a very entrepreneurial approach.
It was very entrepreneurial. It was, it was scrappy, right? But it was responsible. And I think tasting is believing with this product, like
It really
most
is.
great things in this world. So we're doing a lot of sampling, obviously getting it in people's mouths and getting them excited about it, and then we'll see where it goes. But we also showed Jason early on what it could be. At the get-go, we probably scared the living daylights out of him at the beginning with it, showing him here's what it's going to take in these markets to spend.
That's right.
But it was responsible and right to look at the end, to come back to develop that learning plan.
And I've used that ever since you showed it, right? And you said, this is where we're probably going to have to be. And that framed the conversation for everybody to say, okay, well, if we're going to spend that much money, we better darn well understand what we're going to get in return. And so we've just been learning along the way.
I think you're a little shook then, though, when they laid out all those amazing retail sets. And you're like, what? I need what?
Yeah, there was one where we were going to take over the whole refrigerated aisle, and I'm in, but that's going to be a hurdle. That's right. But you're exactly right, Amy. I mean, you guys came in, we talk about trust. I knew no matter what we had to take on, you guys were going to deliver. You set the vision for it, and at each stage, you delivered with depth and expertise and quality. And so it made it easy to work through this project when you can see that the people who are doing the work know exactly what they're doing and where to take it.
We just felt so responsible to get it right, and big kudos to the media team, Robin and the crew there. Yeah.
Okay, so any CPG companies that are thinking about doing an acceleration team, what advice do you have?
I mean, we've hit it probably 50 times. Build trust early and fast, right? As soon as you can build trust, we've all said it in different ways, but it opens up the communication. It reduces the fear of sharing ideas, and the more ideas you can put in the mosh pit, the better off you are.
I also feel like, and it's been kind of my philosophy in working with clients or other folks, is that everything should be a win. I need Amy's organization to win. We're not in competition with Amy. I'm not in competition with Jason or his team. If he's got an R&D person on his team, that is my hero too, and he needs to want me to be successful. It's like everything has to be looking out for wins, and I think that sometimes gets lost. That's kind of the compassion you talked about too.
We feel the same way. Exactly. There was zero competition. It was all collaboration. It sounds really easy. It's not.
It's not.
To get there. I mean, this is a competitive
You have
world.
to work really
Yeah,
hard.
I'm the youngest. I'm a very competitive person in general, but this is not. I mean, again, we set the vision, we set the tone. We knew how to collaborate together, and we made each other better.
We
I
did.
mean, it really was an extraordinary process. Yeah.
One of the things I think about, and I probably should have said this at the beginning, is I know when Bob Evans Foods had this product idea, they looked out in the landscape and said, who can I buy? Who can I buy?
We did.
And there didn't exist. So then they said, how are we going to make it? And that's how it brought the team together to be an outside innovation group. And you made it for far less than you would have bought it, for sure.
Oh, we absolutely did. Yeah, we absolutely did.
That's
and
a
what
great
we can
point.
do now is we built it in such a way that if we invest intelligently, our return to profitability is very quick. We're going to be a self-sustaining business within 3 years for sure.
That's a really important learning for a lot of these startups here at Expo West, especially. I mean, the question is, who are you going to overpay for?
Right.
Is really the
Well, and
question.
that's where we are right
I mean,
now.
seriously. Yeah.
And then we're not going to, we're going to have a two-pronged strategy, right? There are acquisitions, and if we can find one, we will. But if one isn't available, what are we doing in the meantime? And are there trends we can take advantage of? And this is such a perfect example of that.
Anything else you guys want to say today?
I just wanted to thank you, Kathy, and the whole CuliNEX team again, and of course Bob Evans and Jason and Tiffany and the leadership. It really has been a life-changing experience. We all made money, so thank you, Jason. We all are not doing this for free, but aside from the financial portion of it, the experience was really over the moon, and we couldn't have done it with anybody else. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us.
It's changing all of how we start every project. So
Good.
our projects have completely changed as a result of working.
My mood elevator right now is euphoric. I'm at the top. How are you, Jason?
Oh yeah, I'm grateful and
Grateful.
euphoric.
Kathy,
I'm excited.
you're excited.
I love that we're all up on the blue side and the red side.
Exactly.
Very
Great.
good.
Super. Thank you guys.
you.
Appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Wow, what a wonderful conversation. It's incredible how inspired and energized I get when I'm able to share this amazing work with you all. And I'm thrilled that we get to continue this journey together, discovering exciting flavors, crafting new recipes, and bringing completely new dishes to life. I'd be remiss, though, if I didn't call out Wanderlish one more time. If you're lucky enough to be in one of our test markets in Denver and Cincinnati, wander to the refrigerated section of your local Target or Kroger, and I promise you'll discover deliciousness. Thanks for listening, and make sure to head out and try Wanderlish.